Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1000 for the 19th of November, and is 1000 days. It's madness, and yeah, 1000 day of a war. I think yeah, a lot of people have died. Very unnecessary war. If I said right from the beginning of the war, this war shouldn't have happened. That make me sound like Donald Trump, but it's true. This is an unnecessary war. It really doesn't have to happen. There's so many ways to get to not need to fight this war, but they chose that narrow path. Like it's really like all the options will lead to non-war, but they pick the very path that leads to war. It's very crazy, and so this is what it is, and that gave me a leaving. So yeah, so this is what it is. So I'm now the military industrial complex. I benefit from war. So but no, yeah, but then on the bright side we get to make friends. So that's what I think that's at least the bright side. So we're gonna start off with the Kursk front, and then we will go clockwise direction over at the so I almost forgot to cover that black thing again. That was from the frontline changes report. So so over at the Kursk front, the Russian forces continue to do their counteroffensive. But as you can see, the reports are only mainly coming from the western flank, with the Russian forces pushing Leonidovo, Novoivanovka, Zelenishai, Nizinklin, and Darino. And there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces over just off Darino. So which means that the Russians' previous probable attempt to push towards Lebedivka or Svetiklovo haven't been very successful, nor is the fighting at Alexandria. There's a chance that the Ukrainians actually managed to push back and go back on the counter offensive against the Russians. So the situation remains very very tense. I think in this area here, the fact that the Russians they are actively pushing, but they are not able to break out from this area. That shows the limitation at this moment, and the commitment from the Ukrainian side to continue to hold their ground over in the Kursk region. There's no more fighting over in the northern flank or the southern flank, so that's a bit unusual. So moving on towards the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, Russian forces this time round did not fight in the flanks, where it would just drag on the logistics. So what we do have is the fighting reported over in Klipoke, Izbiske, as well as Voschansk. So we are back to the same old classic vanilla Kharkiv fighting. So that is what it is. Ukrainian forces geolocated in the north of Lipsy, which shows that the Ukrainian forces are trying to counterattack and drive the Russians out of this forest, which the Russians currently controls. So tentatively, maybe some partial success, maybe. But this is the only bright spot for the Ukrainian side. In today's reporting, everything is pretty dark. Like the Russians continue to make good progress in the other sectors. So let me turn off my Steam. Yep, I turned it off. Just to not stop the notification from shooting out. So over at the Kupiansk front, fighting comes back to the region of Kindrashivka. There's fighting reported at Petropavlivka as well in the Kupiansk region. This step into the center of Kupiansk, I don't think it exists anymore. This was probably a very fierce, a very daring raid, and however the Ukrainians have tanks in the city. They have basically wiped out, and probably that there is special forces or foreign fighters, foreign legions operating within Kupiansk itself. So I don't think this is going to be an easy take, as per what the Russian commanders in this area thought that it could be. So Kupiansk front holds. So over in the Pischane front, the Russian forces are fighting at Kolyniskivka, Zarizove, as well as Lozova. At Kolyniskivka, the Russian forces made some progress towards the western part or southwestern part of Grushkivka, where the Russian forces expanded control, with geolocation confirming that they have came out of the forest. So that's the frontline change at this sector here. This area here most likely I think is under Khrushchevka, because the road actually leads like this up. Yeah, so that's probably part of Khrushchevka. Tentatively, I put it as Koliniskivka. So let's see how this continue to move on. There is no crossing along this region of the river, so it's not as strategic. But of course, you can always pontoon. But I don't think the Russians are planning to go over to the other side. Ukrainians, despite they are very weak right now, they are not diminished. They still have sufficient troops to fight this war for at least another year. They have the equipment and troops, and to at least fight another year. So no, the Russians, despite they have the superiority, they can't go for stupid raids like this one that happened into Kupiansk, where you're just courting death. It's a suicide mission. Over in the Svetove front, or rather the Borova region. So this Borova, which is also Svetove, yeah, whatever it is. The Russian forces are fighting in Peshov-Trefneve, Svetoklibove. Sorry, it's not Svetoklibove. It's actually Novoyehorivka, and also at Kurakhove. So this is the few areas. This is the usual places that we have the fighting being reported. Nothing particularly special or stand out to me. Over at the Crimea front, there is fighting reported at Terny, Torske, as well as Kurakhove. So this probably still within the Serbensky Forestry region along the river, the Seversky Donetsk River. So that's all. Nothing particularly stand out as well for me in this area here. Sivas front went quiet. Over in the Bakhmut front, there is frontline change over in Orikhovo Vasilivka. I already covered it during the situation, the frontline changes report. You can reference that one. Not very significant. It was an old footage, and fighting is reported towards Stubushki. So that's the only fighting I believe in Bakhmut. There's nothing in the south. Over in the New York front, the fighting remains to be around the Toretsk city, with fighting reported at Druzhba, Toretsk, Skibenivka, and over at Leonidivka. However, what was not reported was the Russian push in the Zabalka region, and there was also a frontline change over at Toretsk. So let's zoom into the Zabalka first. According to the Ukrainian mapping, Russian forces, after capturing the forest in this southern part of Toretsk, have expanded control into the Zabalka district. However, in the latest geolocation, Russian forces are geolocated on the western part of Zabalka, and this confirms that our mapping here is definitely correct in this area here, and definitely the front line look at least something like this, which means that the Ukrainians currently have a screwdriver around here. So whether they can hold this screwdriver remains to be seen, but this is definitely looking very bad, especially with the Russians have firm control around this sector. They could potentially cut off the crossing, or at least the crossing is actually no longer usable anyway. So they could potentially even push in, and the Ukrainians would have to go through the mountain pass. Actually, it's just a hill, but they have to go through the pass, and so that is what currently is happening in this area here. This road out is definitely super dangerous because the Russians are really close by. So that is the only one. If not, then they will have to go through this forest, these trees into the industrial zone. That could potentially be another route for the Ukrainian forces to retreat. Tentatively, this looks really bad. Is yet another encirclement that is developing. So if you zoom in, you can see that there is a water, some kind of a water bodies, like some kind of river, and there is a crossing. Russian forces already taken all these houses. They have direct control over this bridge. So the Ukrainian forces can't retreat in this direction. So any forces that are coming in and out, they'll have to go through this what I call the mountain pass, because it looks really like a mountain pass. I can totally imagine Taliban forces, defending all these areas here. So so this one way. The other way is the one going around this forest, around this hill. So this is another way. So potentially, most likely, there is also Ukrainian forces that's probably positioned along these high grounds. Definitely, they can put some ATGMs or snipers, in this advantageous position, at least spotters. So the Russian advance in this region definitely is going to be a bit more tricky with the high ground of the Ukrainians. that they could potentially hold in this area here. So this could be a very potentially strong position for the Ukrainians if they are able to defend it. But the lack of air superiority is a problem because the Russians could just potentially just bomb it to pieces and smash this entire defensive position. So whatever it is, the Ukrainians will have to make some tough decision in the next 24 to 48 hours. Over at the Thorax, there is a surprising geolocation where the Russian forces is geolocated in the northern part of Thorax. This is a huge advance. The distance of the advance is around 600 meters. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in the urban warfare situation, it is crazy. Because if every corner there can be potential snipers, traveling even 50 meters is a pain. So this is a huge chunk of land of progress, and which means that there's a possibility that the Russians actually have a much more bigger advance, something like this. Maybe this entire area is already under Russian control. There's a good chance that this is the case because this front line here has been static for a very, very long time. And it's very hard to imagine that the Russians are fighting in this area here, but yet they're not pushing in. It's very hard to imagine that's to be the case. So we will just continue to wait for more information. When the intel drop, it's going to be shocking. Suddenly huge piece of ground lost, just like what happened in Zabalka. Suddenly the entire forest just gone in a single day. So yeah, that's of course not normal. It's just the delay of information that is being published by the sources. So, and before I go to the KURAKHOVE front, I noticed a comment wondering where I have been, and I was kind of like, huh? So apparently maybe he just subscribed only to DPA War. So Defense Politics Asia have many channels, so do subscribe to most of them or all of them. And the Ukraine War reporting have been published on the main channel only for the past almost a month, because I was doing some experiment to see whether I can hyper boost the growth of the main channel. But coupled with the fact that I was very busy over the past few weeks, it didn't really bond the result. There isn't a change there's a huge change in terms of the growth of the channel. So which means that it's kind of pointless for me to put everything in one channel, and then the war channel become very lonely. So so I bring back the SITREP so that I can actually publish other things over on the main channel. So that's the main reason. So I'll probably do this same announcement on the main channel as well, telling people that if you want to watch the SITREP, it's on the war channel. So yeah, anyway, help to share. DPA is in a very saturated market. The Ukraine war has been going on for 1,000 days. The market isn't getting bigger, which means that what I mean by market is that the people who cares about the war is not going to get more. Most people don't really care about the war. You guys are the subset of very special people who are interested in the day-to-day development of the war. And the number of people who cares in this way is not that much, especially on the neutral, on pro-Russian side, which is where DPA's market mostly is, because the pro-Ukrainians have a lot of pro-Ukrainian channels that feed them all these adrenaline and happy chemicals that make them get drunk on propaganda. I mean, in terms of the objective reporters of the war, there's not many. And in fact, because the market is now dominated by military summary and then them second by whip union. So it's basically there's no way to grow. So if you look at the channel viewership, be it or DPA on TETI mapping, is the same. The channel viewership never grows. Despite the subscribers might increase, the channel never grows, because this is a direct result of there's a limited market for this stuff. So to help just to share and share, I think the market will just get smaller and smaller over time as people get exhausted with the war. And I'm quite sure that you guys sometimes are getting very exhausted about the war, because it can be very repetitive. So I can understand that people go away for a while then come back, and I'm always very happy to see the comments saying it's been months since I'm back. If I saw, I will always welcome you back. So we are all one family, but I will cover other stuff. I will try to make my time to clear up my time and clear up my SOP, my routines, and hopefully that I can cover more stuff for you guys. So anyway, we go into the Pokrov sector. The fighting is reported at Novotoretsky, Myro-Lubivka. Khodivka is interesting. We haven't seen fighting at Khodivka for some time. There's fighting at Promen, Lysivka, and Dechansky. So, as usual, as I always say, this is a static line. Don't expect too much from this area here. Over in the Selidove region, the Rhino continued to evolve with the Russian forces gaining some grounds north of Novo-Oleksievka as fighting reported at Yurievka and Pustinka. There's fighting also reported at Petrivka. Geolocation of Russian forces landing troops in the south of Petrivka just confirmed the Russians' intentions, as this is the main push. This is the main direction that the Russians are pushing. Is actually along the railway line. So that's the main attention by the Russians. The obsession with railway lines is really interesting. So let's see how this continues to play on from this area here. So over at the north of the Kurakhove sector, this is Kurakhove front or sector on the northern side. Russian forces have been geolocated in the latest geolocation to have expanded control towards the south of Sonsivka. This actually comes in line with what I've been telling you guys, that the Russians are going to go for Stariternyi. This looks exactly like what it is. Like what I've warned. There's fighting reported at Novoselidivka. Russian Defense Ministry in today's report, which is not on this mapping, the only information from today's report is actually the Russian announcement of the capture of Novoselidivka. Sorry, this is actually this is by yesterday. Sorry, this is yesterday. Today's report was talking about Ilinka. So this is the latest information. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Ilinka. So Novoselidivka and Ilinka both announced by the Russian Defense Ministry to be captured. And DPA also declared the capture of Novo Ilinka based on the mapping by the Ukrainian side as the Russian forces captured Ilinka. And fighting continues over at Berezky. So Sonsivka, if I zoom in, you can see that the Russian forces is located at the very end of the settlement. So this will give them a good position to continue to push quickly south towards Stariternyi and complete the encirclement. Over at the Novo Ilinka region, Russian forces have fully captured the entire settlement based on the information from the Ukrainian side, as the Russian forces inevitably have to take all these areas here because the Ukrainians just cannot hold, because they are already operationally encircled in the previous day's report already. So that's the current situation in the northern half of the Kurakhove sector. In the southern half, the fighting is reported over at Kurakhove as well as Dalny. There's some major frontline changes where the Ukrainians concede control over in the southeast of Kurakhove. So that's all. Shelling is reported at Dashne. And there is some kind of fighting or shelling being reported at Yantarne. So it could be potentially reporting of the fighting from Darne moving towards Yantarne. Unclear. But my personal opinion is that the Russians is going to push all along this defense line westward to do a major flanking operation towards the retreating position of Kurakhove. So that's what I think it's going to be. But let's see how this continue to play on. Over in the Uspenivka eastern flank, the Russian forces have captured the entire northern part of Konstantinivka. So Konstantinivka is now 100% fully secured, with the north of Antonivka also secured. Russian forces, according to the Ukrainian mapping, have also surged in from a new position, moving in the direction of Ilinka. So they're moving in this direction of Ilinka. So that is the current situation. I think the Ukrainians will be on a mass withdrawal right now. This basically, with this much of ground suddenly lost, this is a collapse of the defense line, and the Ukrainians will have to find a new defense line. But tentatively, I don't think they are able to do so. As you can see, the jaws are coming. These are all teeth. This is a one big mouth of the T-Rex, and the aim is to eat this Uspenivka. Yeah. So this is very, very bad. I think this is untenable. I think the Ukrainians, it's just a matter of time. The Russian forces will take the entire area here, and then we'll have the front line looking like this, and then we'll be wondering what the hell is Marinka, what the hell is Voleda. No, what the hell is Adievka? No, like what is all these places? Because the world have moved on by so much. It's crazy. I still remember the time that we are still always talking about Solotki, you know, the Russians capture of Vodimirivka, and the Russians getting stuck at Voleda. And now what is Voleda? No, I don't even know what's Voleda. No, is it something to eat? So over in the eastern flank, western flank of Uspenivka sector, the Russian forces are fighting in Trudove. They are fighting towards Uspenivka. Konstantinopolsky, Sukiali, as mentioned just now, the fighting in the direction of Yatarne. There is geolocation south of Zeleny High, or the western part of Bohofivlenka. Not very important per se. Ukrainian forces geolocated at Uspenivka, getting hit by FPV drones. Some vehicles is over there. So this is desperate. The distance between the pincer. Let me push this here, so a bit you can see a little bit better. So the distance between the two front line right now from Dane, Dane all the way to the other front line near Uspenivka is merely 7 kilometers, around 7 kilometers. So this is the gap, 7 kilometers to spell the end of the entire Uspenivka front. So this is going to be pretty scary. I think for the Ukrainian forces around here is just horrible. There's shelling reported at Ulakli. Yeah, so Ulakli sounds like it's not very lucky. It's unlucky. So that's all. Over at the Velikan Novosibirsk sector. So I need to arrange the front line a bit. Okay, so this is the Velikan Novosibirsk sector. Russian forces are pushing towards Rozliv, Rozdone. This Rozdone is part of this flanking movement into the north of Velikan Novosibirsk. The Russian forces are pushing towards Velikan Novosibirsk. Unknown if it's coming from the south or from the east. Fighting is reported in Makarivka. Geolocation of Russian forces at Rivnopil, confirming Russian presence. They are already pushing towards Novosibirsk. Fighting is reported at Novodarivka and Temerivka. So the Russian offensive in the Velikan Novosibirsk continues, and this is very maneuverish, and the Ukrainians definitely is still holding the line. There is no discernible frontline changes around this sector. Tentatively, the Ukrainians are holding a very strong line, at least based on the reporting that we are getting, because there's no frontline changes. What is significant, of course, this full frontal attack is pretty clear. What is more significant is actually the flanking movement from Yasna Polyana. So the Russian forces from Yasna Polyana is now pushing towards Rozdone. As I mentioned, this is going to do flanking movement to the north of Velikan Novosibirsk, forcing a Ukrainian abandonment of the city. Another push towards Rozliv is also just as dangerous, because Constantinople is a decent transport hub, and this is the road that the Ukrainian forces at KURAKHOVE will have to go through, and if this is then the retreat route will be cut off, and the Russian forces pushing in this direction could potentially move towards Constantinople and capture it, and this is going to be a disaster for the Ukrainian forces. If I zoom moving out here, you can see that there is only this road. So the Krakow, they move towards Constantinople, then they can actually move towards Bahatia and then go on towards Zaporizhia, and there's also moving up north towards the other places. So this is a major junction. The other road is a smaller road towards Stary Terny, and then they can go back to Andriivka, which is similar. The northern part is already gone. The Russian forces is now pushing towards Stary Terny, which is super dangerous. And if the Russians have some success in this area and capture Constantinople, you can totally see how the KURAKHOVE sector, the entire region here will just collapse. Entire region. I'm talking about all the way to here. All the way like this. From the Voschar River all the way down. All of this will be captured by the Russian forces in one fell swoop. So this is a very, very precarious strategic situation for the Ukrainians. So yeah, I shouldn't be doing analysis. This is a situation report, but just in case, I have no time to do analysis. So we move on. Over the Zaporizhia front, there is fighting reported at Mala Tomashka and Novo Andreevka. Otherwise, that's all from the Kyiv sector at the Zaporizhia front. Nothing particularly special. And at the Kherson front, we don't have anything, and that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 1000 for the 19th of November. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, continue to support DPA. Don't unsubscribe. And there's also over 100 people got unsubscribed over the past month on this war channel. Check your subscription to see if YouTube unsubscribe you, without you knowing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.